Hey everyone, it's Ryan1940 here. Today we're taking a look at Sea Power Naval Combat in the Missile Age, and they have recently had an Ask Me Anything. I picked out some questions that I thought were interesting, some of the answers from the devs, so we'll talk about it. For the frequently asked questions, the first one that they put out was, when will the dynamic campaign release? They say we choose to delay it from a 2025 release to 2026 release in favor of improving the base game systems and performance. It's still very much on our radar, and we are looking to resuming work on it once the AI infrastructure is done. So no promises in the question in the answer there, but I think they did put out a roadmap where that came out I think after this, and I think it said Q2 of 2026. So that would be cool. I was definitely in favor of them delaying it. I knew that they were not going to make that Q2 of 2025. Once the way that the game released, the AI in some areas was just incredibly basic, and building a dynamic campaign on top of that before fixing the underlying issues would not have been great. So it's good that they recognize that and they proceeded the way they did. So I'm all for that. All right. The other question is AI improvements for carriers and submarines and ships. When's that happening? Very soon. We have already made some smaller additions in the AI already, but are planning to roll out our AI infrastructure prototype very soon, roughly within this month. So I think by now this was included in the beta update that's out there currently, where people can, I think, build up their own sort of AI through scripting or whatever. That's beyond me. It goes over my pay grade. But I'm curious to see how that moves the community around. If you get some really talented modders in there being able to adjust the AI behavior and probably linking up with some people that know more into that kind of stuff and have been out in the fleet, and hopefully you see some more realistic behavior with the enemy. Another question, will there be multiplayer? That's a big one. It's a big one for me, and it's kind of a contentious one, I think, in the community. There's some people like this game is only just for single player, should remain that way. There's other people that want PvP. A major argument I hear is, well, how the heck are you going to resolve the time issue between combatants and stuff like that? Well, so here's the official answer from them so far. It's not really planned at this time. It would require far too much work when we're all working on the core systems. There's a tiny chance we explore it, but it won't likely be until far later into the future, past the full release at this rate. Oh man, so I can understand the PvP thing, because you would have to create, the scenarios would have to be where players don't need to do time compression, or there's some system in place that both parties agree that that's what they want to do. However, I think that this game, especially the scale of it with the different types of units, I think it would be a brilliant co-op multiplayer game, and I sincerely believe that, and I think it's a missed opportunity if the game never receives something like that. In real life, you can imagine there's different warfare commanders, all right? So when a whole task force is out there, there's not just like one dude calling the shots for every warfare department. There's an air warfare commander, there's a surface warfare commander, there's an ASW warfare commander. So all these people would be, I would say, would be a fun experience to say, I would do the ASW bit, and then someone else would run the surface warfare. Someone else is running the air warfare, right? Because I don't really work with airplanes in the scenarios I like. I don't like to do stuff with airplanes because I've always been a sailor on a frigate and a destroyer. So my knowledge of air warfare is really limited, aside from just what I've learned from simulation stuff like in DCS. So it would be cool to be able to pass that responsibility to somebody else while I focus on hunting submarines, because I love to do that in the game, and it would be a neat teamwork kind of thing to experience, because that's what I really miss about being in the military, is you have a complex problem of various threats from different realms, and everybody is doing their little bit for their little part for the warfare area that they're responsible for, and it all comes together, and it's amazing when it does. So honestly, I really hope that when the game releases, that even if it's a small co-op thing of like 3 or 4 players or something, that would be so much fun. And with the time compression thing, you can basically have it, because it's co-op, everyone's on the same side, that the players just decide amongst themselves, like verbally, like if they're talking in chat or something, and then maybe the host of the game is the one that has the overall time compression like responsibilities. I know for sure, like when I was in the Navy, when I was on the destroyer, actually, there was this game, Hearts of Iron, and this was, maybe, I don't know if it was the first one, but there was a modern day scenario mod, and everybody, well, not everybody, but a good amount of people had it on their laptops in my sonar division. And we would play LAN games, but you would have to do time compression, right? Because you want to go through the years and stuff. And it was basically controlled by the host. And it worked out really well that way. We weren't doing PvP, basically. It was just basically PvE, so going against the computer countries. And it was just so much fun. Like, I remember, I think I was like the United States, and as I was upgrading my Navy, I was giving my older vessels to one of our friends who was running like some country down in South America, and because he was getting all this like kit from the United States, he was just absolutely demolishing the countries around him, and then he would feed us resources, so it was a lot of fun. Okay, so multiplayer co-op I think would be great for the game. Will there be multi-monitor support? They say it's not planned at the time, but it would be tricky for us to do. This is a possibility in the future, but it would require too much time we need to spend elsewhere right now. We want to see this feature ourselves. I don't have a multi-monitor setup, so it doesn't concern me too much, but I can sympathize if you have multiple monitors. I could see it being really nice to just have maybe the map on one, the 3D world on one, and maybe your logs and stuff on another screen. Makes it easier to shift your focus around where you need it. But yeah, so hopefully it comes for those people that really want it. Air-to-air refueling, when the devs say that they know it's important and they'll be working on this in the near future. So this is really good. Obviously, air-to-air refueling is vital for air operations in the Navy over the open ocean, right? You don't have bases to land at, and you want to extend the range of your strike forces, your naval airstrike aircraft. So that would be cool to see. Hopefully it's done in a way that's not tedious. Like I wouldn't want to see you manually having to. I think that's the biggest problem with the aircraft in the game is the manual sortie management. It would be nice if I know that I have 4 tankers. I basically have a kind of, now with the new release that came out with the beta, there's like a rally point. Have a rally point for the tanker, and then the tanker's going to go there until they run out of fuel. If I tick a box when they're out of fuel, they come back, another one sorties and goes to that spot, and it keeps going until I tell it to stop, or until there's aircraft unavailable or air crew unavailable to have that going. Something like that to just automate that side process that's important for the other main component of the game is like the combat, right? So you don't want to focus too much on the ancillary stuff. Just let it go, have it set how you want, and then go about doing the combat stuff. All right, so that is good that that's coming in the near future. I'm excited. Royal Navy, when? This is already in the works to some degree is what the devs say, and we haven't seen that yet. They've shown us pictures of some new Royal Navy units. I'm excited. That's a country I really can't wait to see in the game. I work sometimes with the Royal Navy doing stuff, and I'm really interested in seeing more of their older units. It would be outside the scope of this game, but I think the Type 23 frigates are pretty cool looking ships. A little bit newer, I think, than what's the scope of this game. Next question. What are the next countries you are considering adding? So they say they want the European ones, France, Italy, more of the Bundesmarine, and of course, Royal Navy down the road. That'll be good to see. Yeah, just the more variety, the better, I think, because there's more plausible scenarios you can get, not only just NATO versus the Soviets, but being able to, if you have individual countries, then you can open up the realm of creation for scenarios that are maybe more geopolitical ones, specific to those countries that have some national interest somewhere else, and maybe there's a small conflict that you don't really see in games because those units are never modeled. So that's really nice. I'm always happy to see other countries being represented in the game. I think that's important to making it more popular and also driving the scenario generation. All right, Comrade Thomas says, while the emphasis of Sea Power is obviously the missile age, is there a chance that we could potentially see an expansion in the early Cold War warships across various nations? For example, the SCB modifications for the Essex-class carriers. The devs say the artists and the devs have expressed interest in exploring this earlier period of units, so we will see. I can't promise any specifics at the time. This early Cold War, I don't know if I've made it clear in my videos, but that's my favorite genre for the game. I think that it was obviously more simpler times, so the combat is more closer generally and just more violent, and I think that's a fun period to explore. Especially I would love to see those modified Essex class carriers. I think they would look so neat, and all the old aviation that would go on those carriers and stuff I think would be really cool. I'd like to see like the S1s and what's the other guys? I think we don't, yeah, like they had Sky Raiders back then. They had Furies for a very small period of time. Yeah, just that general era, the Korean War sort of era, I think it would also be cool. I think that's one of the questions further on. Let's see here. Bob Jr. says, the team behind the game very clearly stated in early development that they were not interested in modeling the use of nuclear weapons in the game. Given that the modding community has been so extensive already, is there any chance that you will change your mind and add nuclear weaponry in the game so that it can be used in modded scenarios, for example? Devs say, we have done very limited testing with it and performance impact was too noticeable to ignore. We will likely not be looking to add these weapons as well, since we see these weapons as an easy delete key for scenarios. It's not impossible, but it's not likely at this moment in time. So with nukes, I definitely understand the devs' perspective of it, because yeah, a nuke is an easy delete key. But you know, other games that have had nukes, like I think USAF, I believe had them, or maybe that F-22 game before that. It's really up to the scenario designer, and it would be just a tool for a scenario in a single player game. You know, I can understand the worry of a delete key sort of weapon if it was a multiplayer game against other guys, but obviously if they're creating a dynamic campaign, they have the ability to withdraw those weapons from that. And I think that's perfectly okay for gameplay balance in this dynamic campaign that they're trying to mold themselves to have a certain player experience. But for like modded scenarios from the community, I think supporting something like that, even if it's just a really basic level, I think would be good, because maybe somebody comes up with some cool scenario or linear campaign even where you drop a nuke maybe in the first one, and then there's you know, drives the story a certain way. You know, there's just like other uses for the nuke. It is, you know, dramatic weapon system to use, and also obviously, thank goodness, we've never seen it in real life in combat. So I think there's also curiosity there. How would warfare look like if we had stuff like that in the game? So Z Richthoven, hello dev team. I was wondering if there was any plans for improved fire and smoke from damaged ships. The fire and smoke are great as it is, but I wish they had more volume and were darker and had shadows like real flames. They just feel lacking. When I barrage a ship with ASMs, it feels like the ship's fire is not as extreme and lethal as it could be. Thank you for your time, dev team. Stay awesome. So they say we might update the VFX rendering system down the road, but they have but what we have now works good enough. I think it does work good enough, but I will say I think what this guy's getting at is what I notice all the time. It's a subtle thing, but he talks about it not having a lot of volume or being darker and that kind of stuff. And I think some of that is from the way that the smoke is generated. It if you were to look at a unit that's on fire, right, you shot missiles at it, it's burning on fire. If you then click off of that unit to go somewhere else across the map, and then you go back to that unit, the fire is going to just restart again. So it'll have disappeared, even if it was all billowing smoke by then because you were looking at it long enough, and then it's going to just slowly, restart to smoke again. That is a very subtle thing, and it's something I notice all the time though, because it looks so unnatural, right? Because that unit was burning, you saw it pouring out smoke to the full extent, and now when you come back to it, it's not smoking anymore, and the smoke's slowly rising again. So it's a small thing that I notice, and I think even just that would improve the visuals of it a little bit if the smoke was persistent across cameras changing. I don't know how you could do something like that the way the game works, but hopefully they can do something. DMD-Man92, hello. Please make a telescope for submarines and binoculars for ships, as well as a convenient freestanding camera that could be installed on the captain's bridge with a normal all-around view. Devs say that's one of the little things we think would increase immersion, so those are considered worthy add-ons, but lower on the priorities ladder. I think that should be higher on the priority ladder. That is one of my favorite stupid things to do in War on the Sea, is there's like a little binocular view, and that game the UI is kind of clunky, so I don't really play it on my channel. I do have some videos, but it's hard to. There's other things about it too that I don't like. I think it's 10 unit limitation in the battles on your side. But anyways, the thing I love about that game is that little binocular periscope sort of view that you get, and it is immersive. I think it really sucks you into the game. And if you had a camera like that in Sea Power, most of my videos would be from that perspective, like being on the bridge wing, just observing the battle space around you. That would pull you in like nothing else. I can't imagine. It would just be an amazing thing. I do it in some of my videos already. I just if I'm on a helicopter, I'm kind of scouting for ships, visually looking at them. I'll use the zoom key from the helicopter point of view to kind of take a peek at that unit. So it would be neat to just have a button that says, okay, I'm sitting in the helicopter and I've got binoculars. This is what I would see from this perspective. And that's out of all these things, I think that's probably the one I want the most, because I know that I would thoroughly love it, because I loved it in other games. All right. Killshot asks, are there any plans to go backwards in time to, say, the Korean War era and also into the early 90s for some Desert Storm era fun? And the devs say, as much as the Korean War sounds tempting to some of the team members, it's not very likely, as for the 1990s, we're considering a post 1.0 releasing 1990s DLC or Units DLC. So it sounds like they're not likely to do Korean War. I think that would be a cool DLC, because there are, going back to the earlier carriers, I think that would be kind of cool, and the aviation associated with that would be pretty neat. Do some shore bombardment with the BBs, that would be cool. But if they don't do that, it's whatever. Like I said, I think the early Cold War is more interesting to me. It's more brutal, right? The post 1990s Units DLC, if that came out, I would absolutely buy that like instantly, because I was on a Flight 1 Arleigh Burke, and I would hope that they'd have the Flight 1 Arleigh Burke in that DLC. I think also in that time period, having there are some major conflicts like the Balkans and Desert Storm and stuff that you can do, and it'd be kind of neat to see how that plays out. Like, I think the Iraqi Navy was just like clobbered like in a short order. And there was also, they did fire missiles off at American ships and stuff. So I think there was a Mirage F1 or something that fired what Nexus had or something at a battleship, I think. I'm just like pulling this off the top of my head. And then I think a British ship engaged the missile, and then a Saudi F-15 shot down the Iraqi plane, if I'm remembering that correctly. Anyways, it also opens up to like other conflicts, like I think like in North Africa, like in Libya and that kind of thing. So yeah, that would be DLC. If that makes it to market, I'm definitely buying it. I'm definitely going to show it off on the channel because I could really play something like that over and over again. The Commando 973 asks, will we get a more detailed map, maybe by selecting an area of operation and then raising its resolution? Devs say, we are limited by the datasets we are using for terrain mesh creation and the land type features. We've done some experiments with double the terrain resolution, but for now we're more focused on improving the terrain look by improving the terrain shaders. We're also mindful of the game size. Introducing larger resolution datasets would increase the game download size a bit. I definitely can sympathize with that, not wanting to make the game map sizes like larger, and then also putting the effort into just overall look with the terrain shaders for the whole world. But I do think some areas should probably get I don't know if it would have to be something that is just like hand drawn by a human for the terrain mesh outline or something like that. I don't know how that stuff works, but like one of the missions, Operation Morvid, I think that's the name of it, the Outfall Waterway is just a complete low resolution, I wouldn't say mess, but like it is so low resolution that you don't see that, and parts of it that should be water just blended into the terrain as land. And if a human can go through and say, well, there's actually this waterway that goes up this way, and then the game just has that information because it was detailed that way by a human, then I think that would be good. Or for the major, I think there's like points of interest that should be detailed higher, like that waterway in particular, maybe around the Suez, if you have a Suez Canal scenarios, maybe Gibraltar going through the Strait, maybe off the coast of like Vietnam, places that we did have conflicts in. The scenario generation is probably going to be around, I guess, or at least open that up for modders to have the ability to edit it as they see fit and share it on the workshop, so people can say, oh, I like that area, I'm interested in that area, so I want to get that downloaded into my game. Because I personally, for me, I would like to see the major strategic naval bases across the Soviet and the United States like modeled in a better detail. So when you do, maybe at the sort of the end state of maybe the dynamic campaign, when you're actually making it to hit the Soviets and their naval bases and stuff, you want to see what that looks like. Or you sneak a submarine off the shelf here in California, you have a Soviet submarine, you're just watching San Diego, watching the ships come out. You want to see that in better detail, I think. You don't want to see it just in a blurry blob. So yeah, I think maybe a compromise there would be having that be a community modded sort of thing, so people can focus on what they're interested in, and people that are interested in the same thing can download it as well. Alright, this one is another one about modding. Currently importing external 3D models into the game requires the use of third-party tools such as Sea Anchor or Anchor Chain or Sea Lifter, which can sometimes cause incompatibility or stability issues after updates. With that in mind, are there any plans or considerations to support importing 3D models and without relying on external tools in future updates? I cannot read right now. End of a long workday. They say yes, it's coming soon, and I think by now that's in the beta update. I don't play the beta, I've said that a million times, but I think I saw that was one of the things that came out. So I'm happy to see that, because I don't like using third-party tools to mod stuff. I did it a lot with Grand Theft Auto. I used to like modding that game for this police mod LSPDFR, and I would get really in the weeds with it, like picking specific police car vehicle types or fire engines. I'm really big into fire engines. I love them. And so I would find the models I could mod the colors on them, or the textures, and that kind of thing. So I don't want to do that with another game. I've already done that. I've kind of burned out from it. So having an internal tool if I can just go in the workshop and say, oh, there's a Flight 1 Arleigh Burke, I can click on that, download it's in my game, that would be really cool. I would really enjoy that. Jonathan writes, regarding the potential future dynamic conflict or campaign, will we see in-depth mechanics like the Soviets rolling out older or worse equipment as we thin their forces? Other examples are seeing convoy routes changing over time as some become too dangerous. Things like SOSUS existing and being sabotaged target for the USSR. Equipment malfunctions like weapons failing as supplies run low, potential territory control on land and armies maneuver in the background, and the ability to build new ships, aircraft, and facilities to replace losses. Ooh, that was a lot. The devs say, yes, you'll likely see an AI selecting the best available assets from a persistent inventory of units, and that the routes will change in response to territorial seizure, spec ops, and actions, etc. I think that's really cool. I really like that they said the word spec ops, because that'd be kind of neat. I don't know if they'll let you do it, but if you as like the theater commander was like, we really need to take out some sort of target that is giving this benefit to the other side, or say you get orders to launch a SEAL raid, and you are commanding a submarine unit, maneuvering it close enough to the shoreline where they can actually, or off the coast of some place, to launch these guys. That would be cool and kind of suck you into the story, make you feel like you got some skin in the game, I guess. So that would be really neat. I do like that of everything with the dynamic campaign, that there's going to be persistent supplies of weapons and stuff like that, and inventory of units is the big one, because I don't like games where you lose a ship, but it's an RTS, and you can just, I go to the port, I click on buying a new ship, I got another ship all of a sudden, because ships take freaking years to build, right? And you just can't replace losses on the fly. If you don't have that stuff being built at the moment, good luck. And as ships got more complicated going into the Cold War, it took years to build ships. And so you lose. I think that adds consequence to the actions that you will take, and part of that, I think, will suck you into the story that you're painting for yourself, because you're determining, is going after this Kirov worth it, right? And sometimes it might be worth it if you're going to lose one of your 30 frigates that you got available, and that guy's the poor missile sponge, but then Kirov at that point has wasted all its shipwreck missiles, and now you have a chance of killing 1 out of 4 or 1 out of 5, I think they were trying to make back then. That would be really neat, and that would be something that dynamically happens, and it's in the laws of it's in the realm of believability, right? Because there's not just a bajillion Kirovs they can make. They had 4. I think they wanted to make 5, if I remember correctly, but that makes the game fun. So that's cool that they're going to do that. The next question is, would you ever consider adding nuclear warheads to things like torpedoes? This one is cool, and I kind of touched on it with the other nuclear question. I think, we'll see what the devs say. That's something that we're against for plenty of reasons for a long time, but in the end, we might consider it long down the road if we do it, if we get to do it correctly on a technical and visual level. I hope they do it, because like I said earlier, I touched on it. The game, it would allow us to, I have a curiosity of what would that look like if we had the use of tactical nuclear weapons in a scenario. Because obviously it never happened in real life, thankfully, but what would ASW look like if submarines had nuclear tipped torpedoes and I had a nuclear tipped ASROC, right? You don't, the accuracy that you need doesn't need to be so great. So how would that change the warfare aspect to it if you know that there are such wide margins for accuracy? And I would love to see that. And the only way that you can see that is if that gets put in the game. And it's a single player game, so if some person wants to cheese it up and mod their scenarios and every official mission just change it so they can have nuclear weapons in it, who cares, right? That's their game that they bought. If they're having fun for a product that they bought and enjoying themselves in that game, that's good. It's a good thing at the end of the day. I just want to see it because I'm very curious to see how a hot war like that would have looked, because we don't have any precedent to measure stuff with in regards to that. So I do hope they're able to figure that out and add that in. It's not like because you want to feel like you're so badass and you delete everything in all the scenarios with these nuclear weapons. It's more of like the just how this stuff would actually look. What does that look like when you're using nuclear depth charges or ASROCs? Like, what are some of the dangers in doing that? You know. So, anyways, let's see here. We got. Could you implement auto-generated civilian ships? That was John G asking. Could you implement auto-generated civilian ships, aircraft, and biologics with preset weapons or waypoints to different ports and airports? Biologics will just be random, obviously. They say the dynamic campaign will auto-generate sea and air civilian traffic. So that's really good. I was happy to see that they're going to do that because I think they showed I think Julian showed me a long time ago, actually, like a screenshot of just generic ship traffic actually going between ports and stuff. So it did make sense, and that I thought was so cool. And same thing with the air traffic. They're not just random directions. Like they're going to an actual city as the world is kind of just like living and being while you're moving your units around on the strategic scale, right? There's aircraft going to different cities, and so that opens up stuff for, like, you know, you might have the potential to understand that you are in like a civilian air traffic corridor just because you know, like, oh, I know, you know, flights are emanating from like London going to different parts of Europe, so I can kind of figure out, oh, this is generally where those aircraft should be flying. It doesn't make sense that this aircraft is coming from this particular direction, you know, so that is really cool. In terms of biologics being random, yeah, that's. I hope there's a way to do that, because I think right now the people that are putting biologics in their scenarios, I think they've got to just do it by waypoints, but should just be able to like take the burden off them if they have to do it that way and just set it to random, and this thing is going to change course random amount of times after random amount of speed in a certain direction. Yeah, that would be neat to see. And also just adding more, I guess, biologics, maybe different types of whales, or a cool visual to see in real life is sometimes you get lucky and you'll see like a megapod of dolphins, and it looks spectacular. You're talking like hundreds of dolphins just splashing up the water in a big segment. Another cool one I would love to see is like maybe if it's more of like a shader in the game world, but the one thing that I notice at sea in the game that really bugs me visually is there's like no birds. It sounds really stupid, but yeah, I miss it. The seagulls and stuff like that just randomly around would make it feel way more alive. And I don't know how you do that in a game like this, but just that visual in my brain is like, that would look so freaking cool. You know, for fishing boats, they some areas of the world, like, you can tell where the fish are because the seagulls are just like circling around all over the place or hanging around that one spot, and you can see the fishermen going over there because they know that the birds see where the fish is at. So that would be super cool, and yeah, that would be really neat to see in the video game. And obviously, because of the scale, we're dealing with the large ships. I imagine it just you wouldn't even, maybe not even see that it's a seagull. Maybe it's just something like you just see some sort of artistic representation of a bird or birds flying around, because that will add life to the world. And I think the whales being biologics being added was a great first thing to do for the game. And I think for scenarios, for ASW scenarios, it's definitely helped add more drama to it, because people have been unfortunately killing whales, but until they realize, like, oh, I got to be a little bit more careful with my shots, and kind of take some time to let us understand what the contact is. So yeah, anyways, I think that's it. About 30 minutes into this thing now. So that was Ask Me Anything that came out like a few days ago. It's the 18th right now as I'm recording this. This came out, let me see if I can find it. Came out on the 13th, so 5 days ago, and the roadmap did come out after that, on the 14th, and they say the midterm coming up, Q4 is going to be for 2025 is going to have the overhaul of the flight deck mechanics, native support for 3D party modeling, like we talked about that stuff, and the rework for the AI. In terms of AI, one of the things I noticed playing as the submarines in the past few missions I've been doing, I hope that the AI gets better at ASW, because there's times where they have contact, but they don't aggressively try to close on that contact and fix it to a position. Like the plane might pick me up on a sonobuoy, fire a torpedo at me, and then he just doesn't do anything about it. The ships that he's working with don't seem to maneuver to close on me and try to capture me, like or put me in a position where I'm going to be detected by them. So I do hope that they get better at that. It would make it feel like you're actually going against a large group of like hunters, basically, instead of just like random unit behavior almost. So that's Q4. A lot of that stuff is already on the beta, and midterm Q2 for 2026 says Dynamic Campaign Phase 1 comes out, New World Navy UK faction comes out, and then continuous improvement of AI. So those will be very welcome additions. Long-term Q3 for 2026 is the Sea Power 1.0 full release, and then dynamic campaign improvements and full roadmap for the upcoming factions. So that'll be interesting to see what they say, what they'll add for new factions. I think so far it's great. We got China, Japan. We're going to get the Royal Navy next year. But I think, opening up the game for native 3D modding support is going to be a big one, because then people that have time on their hands and have the talent and the willpower can really churn out units. And modding in games, I think, is a good thing for longevity of the game. I think for development, games that the game devs, when they focus on supporting modders, but when they put out their own updates, it's more to add something substantially different, not just a unit pack or something. I think is the way to go for the game versus the modding community, keep it all vibrant going. Anyways, thank you very much for listening to me talk around this new Ask Me Anything set that came out. Very thankful that the devs put something like that out, and they put out that roadmap for us. It is the 1-year birthday for Sea Power. Great game. I've had a lot of fun with it. How many hours have I played? Let's take a look while we got this game going. I have 258 hours. I know some of you have hundreds of more hours on me. And I try to play, I don't know, when I get into it, I play like hours at a time, going through a scenario or something. And a lot of times I like to just browse the workshop and see all the cool scenarios out there and give them a go. Even some, maybe if they're not so polished, I'll give them a go just to see how it is. And there's some interesting stories that develop in those missions, so that's really cool. So the players and the community are really making this game great, but it's also really great to see the devs. They don't look like they're abandoning this game anytime soon. They're well involved in the community. They listen to the community. They're really active on the Discord. If you want to chat with them, go to their Discord. They've got a section where you can ask questions to them, the devs, and then most often you're going to get an answer within, depending on the time of day, probably within minutes. So they're pretty good. They definitely listen to feedback. The big one is a lot of people aren't happy with the AI, and it's evolving, and it's definitely getting better. I can definitely say that for sure. It's well worth a purchase if you haven't got the game already, because this is one of the great Navy games that's out. Luckily, it's still very fresh, and it's still growing. All right, so if you have any questions or comments, actually, I want to know what, for me, the thing that I would love the most is co-op multiplayer for a couple players. Do you guys think that something like that would be fun to do, like a different sort of area warfare commander thing in a co-op scenario? Like, so you can do a big scenario of like maybe Operation Praying Mantis, and maybe one of you guys is controlling all the air units, and then your buddy's doing all the surface warfare stuff. Is that fun for you guys, or you just prefer that the game just stays single player and all the effort just stays on single player? That I think I can see the game staying like that in single player, and I wouldn't fault them for it. But yeah, I just like playing with friends and stuff, and definitely if there was a co-op thing, I definitely would play with any of the viewers and stuff that want to join me and do the air warfare thing, because I don't like doing it. And also, it'd be cool to see the nuclear stuff. I don't, yeah, I understand why they wouldn't want to put it in for like the official campaign stuff and missions. I could see that. But if a mission designer made something where, you have a nuclear ASROC and the other guy's got a nuclear torpedo, I want to see how that looks. I want to see how that plays out, because that's interesting, because we don't have a way to see that or visualize that, right? And yeah, I'm curious to see how something like that would play out. And it's cool that we would have this sandbox of this game to be able to do that in. Anyways, I could rant on about this forever. Yeah, leave a comment below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.